Well, over the weekend, Donald Trump showed us what we all knew, that he has penis envy. Stormy Daniels said it was a nubbin shaped like a mushroom. And now we know because he was at a rally and in front of people and cameras was talking about the late golfer Arnold Palmer's penis size. Kylie, play the clip.
But Arnold Palmer was all man. And I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this is a guy that was all man. His man was strong and tough. And I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God, that's unbelievable. I had to say it.
Might I remind you, he has been president of the United States. And I also, just for the listener, want to point out that Arnold Palmer's children that are living came out and said he thought Trump was vile. Those comments were disgusting and vulgar. And he would have supported and voted for Harris Wall's ticket.
You know, this man is in a death spiral right now. You know, he cosplays being a McDonald's worker because out of everything that Kamala Harris has accomplished, she worked at McDonald's when she was younger. And that's the one thing that Trump objects to. Not that she was district attorney, attorney general, United States senator, vice president. The fact that she worked at McDonald's really occupies a lot of time in his head. And he cosplayed being a fry worker. And they only had supporters of his go through the drive-thru. Right. They closed down the McDonald's. And he told everybody he was paying for it. And guess what he didn't do?
Let me guess.
Pay the bill.
He didn't pay the bill. I mean, this guy walks the check more than any person I've ever known. Going on with the theme of his fascination with penis size. In a podcast, he was somewhat supporting Harvey Weinstein, who by all accounts is just vile. But his word choice was interesting. Let me see if you can pick it up.
It's interesting. I was so amazed that Harvey Weinstein got schlonged. He got hit as hard as you can get hit because he was sort of the king of the woke, right?
Okay, obviously he said schlonged, but he sounds medicated.
Yeah.
He sounds like he is sedated. He has a slurred speech, and he's just this rambling, incoherent nature of the way he communicates is getting worse and worse and worse. It started with the Hannibal Lecter stuff, and then he's going into the batteries, the windmills. Now we're talking about schlongs. Arnold Palmer, he's running around acting like he's a McDonald's fry cook. I mean, this man is in a total faceplant. His campaign is in a total collapse.
It's unbelievable how he's running for president for the third time. He doesn't have a coherent message on policy or, healthcare, but he can run around talking about penis sizes. And Harvey Weinstein, why the fuck would that even come up?
Well, here's what I think, Pumps. I think America is in the throes of a massive mental health crisis. And I believe this because the polls, and I say polls and I put them in parentheses or in quotation marks, show kind of a dead heat race. If people, millions, tens of millions of people are listening to that and then making the jump, this person needs to be in charge of the United States of America, the nuclear codes, etc. We are in the throes of a massive mental health crisis that tens of millions of people, like the abusive nature, gaslighting nature of this con man, obviously mentally declining con man.
Well, and just a slight reference is the grifts continue to go on Truth Social. Now he's got a victory wine that he's selling, just for your knowledge. But talking about a mental health crisis is the perfect segue because Moses Mike Johnson, who, to remind everyone, said in front of people and cameras that God told him that he was Moses. And he also is in purity culture, the whole nine.
Monitors his son's porn.
Right.
Just a bunch of weird shit.
And his son monitors his porn.
It's weird.
It's weird.
Weird shit.
So he goes on Jake Tapper, and let's hear what he says about Donald Trump and Arnold Palmer's penis comments.
Donald Trump's campaign suggested he would begin previewing his closing argument Saturday night with Election Day barely 2 weeks away. But the former president kicked off his rally with a detailed story about Arnold Palmer, at one point even praising the late legendary golfer's genitalia, unquote. Mr. Speaker, you're crossing all over the country. You're working hard to get Republicans over the line in this election. You're talking about substantive issues. Is this really the closing message you want voters to hear from Donald Trump, stories about Arnold Palmer's penis?
Well, listen, I think that the headline that I read about the rally in Pennsylvania yesterday was the big question, and it's the one that Kamala Harris has not been able or willing to answer, and that is, are you better off now than you were under the Trump administration 4 years ago? And no one can answer that question with a yes. I mean, no one, and that's why Kamala Harris herself avoids the question.
I can tell you right now, I'm better off than I was 4 years ago. A million times better off than I was 4 years ago. But let's take a brief moment and support our show by listening to our sponsors. And when we come back, we are going to deep dive into the lunacy that is Moses Mike Johnson. Listener, Pumps and I are always chatting about how the news is framed. And we get our news from Ground News because it combines all the news publications in one. It tells you if it's left-leaning, if it's center, if it's right-leaning, etc. So let's take an example here. Recently, Vice President Harris was on Call Her Daddy podcast, and the way this was covered across all news outlets was really interesting.
It was so interesting because on the left, they talked about it being a talk about abortion and more, while on Pink News, it highlighted Harris's statement in the interview that Trump told a bold-faced lie on late-term abortion.
Exactly. And then on the right, the New York Post states that Harris's interview, quote, feels like propaganda. And Red State says the interview, quote, raises eyebrows and is completely clueless, which leads us to our next point. If you've always wondered what your crazy Trumper uncle's algorithm looks like, to see exactly what he's reading, this app gives you access to that and helps you understand how people like him are arriving at their opinions, which Pumps and I both find incredibly fascinating. So join us by going to groundnews.com/IHIP to get 40% off the Ground News Vantage plan that Pumps and I use. They're subscriber funded and female founded. By subscribing, you're not only getting a tool we all need today, you're also supporting our work. That's Ground, GROUND, news.com/IHIP. Link below in the show notes. Look, Pumps, most of us aren't trying to become Olympians, but who doesn't want to feel strong, healthy, and end the day with some energy left in the tank? But that's not happening without good nutrition, let's face it. That's why I take Field of Greens. It's whole, organic fruits and vegetables, no extracts, no lab-made stuff, just one scoop a day gives you simple, real nutrition.
What I like about Field of Greens is the fruits and vegetables are medically chosen to support your heart, vital organs, and immune system.
Steady energy throughout the day, no afternoon crashes, better sleep, even my stomach feels better. Field of Greens is my go-to for getting the nutrients I need, even on those bad eating days. I'm sure you'll love Field of Greens, but if you don't, you can return it for a full refund. We've got you 15% off your first order and free rush shipping. Visit fieldofgreens.com and use promo code MANAGER. That's promo code MANAGER at fieldofgreens.com. fieldofgreens.com. Okay, here's a guy who every chance he can get is Bible thumping, left, right, up, down, center. He is a complete religious addict.
Right.
And people can be addicted to religion. And this is what you see when you see all of these crazy megachurch preachers that are doing all of these destructive behaviors where they're using other human beings, much like an addict that is spiraling out of control does. So we have a person that is a religious nut that is in charge of the House of Representatives who talks about God and pornography and abstinence culture, how he has conversations with God, all this crazy shit. I mean, that's just, it's not normal. This is crazy magical thinking. It is 2024. I cannot stand this guy. No. I think he is the biggest hypocrite, the biggest charlatan. I think it's fishy as hell that he's always talking about anti-gay shit.
Agree.
I just think that's a red flag. Anytime anybody's talking about porn and anti-gay shit, as much as they're talking about solutions for people, it's a cell phone, in my opinion.
Agree.
And if you're so Jesus-y, then you should be talking about helping the poor, helping the sick, raising the minimum wage, fighting against the consolidation of wealth, which I believe that was something that Jesus spoke out against. But instead, he's mired down in all of these shady moms of liberty, pray the gay away type groups. This is not a serious person, but he has a completely serious job. And he just goes out on a hypocrisy tour when he defends the most immoral, disgusting man on the planet that doesn't even have the decency when he knows he's going to be photographed to blend his makeup.
That is true.
I mean, it's just flat out disrespectful.
It's flat out disrespectful.
Do you think any drag queen would run around and not have blended her makeup perfectly?
Absolutely
no, she
not.
Wouldn't do that.
Absolutely not. And here's the thing. I agree with you. Mike Johnson, he is a total hypocrite. Everything Donald Trump is, his religion would tell me that he's against, but he cannot bow down and kiss his ass quick enough. And I just want to end it because I just think it's important talking about Mike Johnson and how religious he is and how perfect he is and how everybody has to be the way he thinks everybody should be. Donald Trump is not only talking about penises, and here's the deal. I cuss. I like cussing. I'm not a presidential candidate. And this is what he says about Kamala Harris over the weekend at his rallies.
Horrible. She's a horrible person, but she's radical left, and Crazy Bernie is radical left. And this one, Kamala, is further left than them. So you have to tell Kamala Harris that you've had enough, that you just can't take it anymore. We can't stand you. You're a shit vice president. The worst. You're the worst vice president. Kamala, you're fired. Get the hell out of here. You're fired. Get out of here.
See, this is the thing. He has no substance.
Yeah.
He doesn't say her policies are wrong and here's why. It is these, grandiose, she's a radical left lunatic. Bernie's radically left. The only people in this country that are truly radical is the MAGA movement. This is a radical, unhinged death cult that doesn't give a shit that women are unable to access emergency care, doesn't give a shit about the minimum wage. He's parading around as a fry cook at McDonald's, and some people asked him about the minimum wage. He doesn't give a shit that people live below the poverty line. He doesn't care about any of that stuff. The connection between the religious right, which you have the evangelicals, and then there's some far right Catholics that are knee deep into all of this too. And they're all over here with Trump. And then you have people that genuinely want to make change for the country. And then there could be policy differences in how you exact that change. He does not care about policy. He's never cared about policy. Anybody that worked with him, and these people are far-right neocons,
right,
cannot endorse him because that's what a nut and how unhinged and how dangerous he is, which brings me back to half the country's fucking crazy, and we have a full-blown mental health crisis. We have a bunch of people that are indoctrinated in cuckoo for Cocoa Puff, radical Christianity, and then this radical form of authoritarian government where they want the U.S. military to come round up members of Congress that don't agree with that guy.
It's unbelievable how many people support him. And I'm with you. Like, if we wake up on November 6th or 7th or whenever the votes come in and he has been elected, I mean, it's going to tell me more about the American people than I probably want to know.
I already know. By virtue of how many votes he got the first time and the second time. And if he gets however many votes he gets, it's going to be in the tens of millions this third time. We know that. And this is a full-blown mental health crisis where people have turned themselves into total pretzels to justify voting for him because they're too big of pussies to just say, I'm a racist and I like the racism, because that's what it is. It's the racism, stupid.
Agree.
All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow.